welcome back to my channel. It's Parvati, and today I'm going to be taking you guys along with me through a week of from scratch cheap breakfasts that I'm making for my family. Today I'm making some blueberry scones, actually sourdough discard blueberry scones, and this recipe, unfortunately, it's not up yet on my blog, but honestly, it is a modified recipe of Lisa Bass from the Farmhouse on Boone. I did tweak this recipe a little bit to be more to my liking, but I'm kind of getting my inspiration from her recipe, so I'll link hers below. But I did change around her recipe a bit. I did not use any eggs in my scones, and I also didn't use any maple syrup. I believe she uses maple syrup, and I did not in this recipe. I just used regular cane sugar. And this is such an amazing, amazing breakfast. If you're trying to serve something a little bit on the special side, I whipped this up for my husband and my sons on the weekend. We always have some type of quote unquote special breakfast for the weekend, something a little bit different out of the norm of yogurt or porridge. Just to kind of spice things up to keep the morale high. So this is really a delicious recipe. I'm absolutely in love with it. I pretty much just take the same principles of making any kind of pie crust or biscuits and apply that onto essentially air quote the rules of scones. I am going to treat it with care and love. I'm not going to over knead this dough at all because I still want it to be somewhat like a pastry, kind of like a pie crust, in between a pie crust and a biscuit. So you see me here just shaping the dough and rolling it out using a very gentle hand. And I'm not going to over flour my dough because that can make things get very tough very fast. And my technique for making scones and biscuits, and depending on what type of crust I'm making, if it's for patties, like Jamaican patties, I will do my fold method like you see me doing here to make sure I get some nice flake and, some layers going on there. So it's not so boring, essentially. I really try and go the extra mile whenever I am using my sourdough and making some kind of pastry or sweet item for my family. Since me and my husband decided a few years ago, not really a few years ago, I think it's like over 5 years ago, for me to stay home and basically become a stay-at-home mom instead of me being in the work field, learning how to do all of these things has really helped me. I've always been able to cook since forever, like since I was like 10 years old. And I always stress to mamas how important it is to learn some of these just basic skills, which is cooking, learning the basics to baking, really trying to hone in and prioritize your homemaking skills. And this is not something that is fast or quick. This takes years. This takes time. It takes dedication. You're gonna mess up sometimes. It's not always gonna be perfect. But as long as you're taking those steps to learning, you are definitely going to make it there. You're going to achieve those goals. Small goal would be to at least just get up and look presentable in the daytime and not be in your pajamas. Another person's goal might be to make a from scratch meal, all 3 meals from scratch for their family. So it just depends on what it looks like for you and your goals and your season of life. And just make sure you're not comparing yourself to other people and judging yourself accordingly. So these are my scones. Oh my God, they were so heavenly and they tasted amazing. My son really wanted to help me make some glaze. I really don't measure, you guys. So I just put a little bit of powdered sugar and a little dollop of milk and a little bit of vanilla extract, and then we're just mixing that up to get a nice little glaze consistency. I've done this so many times. I just kind of just freehand it, and we're just pouring it all over these scones, and they just look so fabulous. We ate these up, okay? I think I could only shove down like 3 of them before I was done. They're so delicious, and I really hope that you try this recipe. Okay, so this is the same Saturday, but it's Saturday night. And I'm preparing to make Sunday breakfast. I'm preparing to make Sunday's breakfast, and it's going to be some fermented croissants. And I believe I fermented these for about over 12 hours. I don't think it was a full 24 hours, but I think it was somewhere in between that time. And this is a really awesome recipe that is not difficult. Like when I first made croissants, I felt like they were too laborious, but this is so quick and easy. It's really not a big deal once you get the hang of it. So what you've seen me here doing, I made a stiff starter, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that in a mason jar to rise. And that is going to be our leaven for this dough. So we're going to go ahead and put some warm water, and we're going to add in our milk. And then also I'm going to go ahead and take a sip of my amazing matcha drink. I am like obsessed with matcha.
Very stiff.
So my son thinks that he can actually pour out this sourdough. It's hilarious. He's looking like, why can't I pour it out? And I'm like, you can't pour this type of sourdough starter. It's stiff. So let me help you. Now that is what it's looking like. And I'm just going to go ahead and mix that into my milk water. And really try and just kind of mash it up in there. But also add your flour. And the recipe for my sourdough croissants is going to be linked below. I'm not sure if it's going to be linked when this video goes live, but I will do my best to finish up that recipe and make sure it's available for you guys. So we're going to go ahead and add in some softened butter, and we're just going to go ahead and mix that in, and eventually I'm just going to use my hand because that spoon was just not working out. So yeah, I'm just doing some kneading. The dough is pretty soft, so I'm just pretty much adding in a little bit more flour to this dough to try and thicken it up just a little bit, but not too much, because that is like a very scary technique doing that. I really don't recommend it unless you're kind of experienced. And I'm going ahead and made a butter block in one of my Ziploc bags. If you're unfamiliar with how to make a butter block, it's really simple. You just take some softened butter, you put it in a Ziploc bag, and then roll it out with a rolling pin and put it in the fridge. And after like 2 hours, pull it out, and there you go. You got yourself a pastry butter block. It's so simple. So after a few hours of fermentation, I've got my pastry dough here, and I'm ready to mix in my butter block. And I don't know what it is about dough and pastry dough. I just love the feeling of it. Like, it really makes me feel relaxed and calm. Like, working with it is just so relaxing to me. Like, I really enjoy baking and working with pastry dough and dough specifically. So you guys just seen me fold in that pastry butter block, and what I'm gonna do is now just roll my rolling pin over this pastry dough gently, because now we're trying to create those wonderful folds that we all know and love in any pastry. This recipe, honestly, it doesn't have to be croissants. You can make danishes with this recipe. You can flaky pie crust. Honestly, the possibilities are endless when you have sourdough discard pastry dough in your refrigerator, just ready and waiting for you to pull it out and make some delicious chicken pot pie, or making some meat pie, or just saving it to make some croissants or sweet danishes for your family. It's really like a dream being able to know how to make this and just having it ready in your refrigerator. So if I was you, I definitely make 2 batches of this dough. I only made 1 batch, and honestly, We didn't even get to eat it for breakfast because my husband really, really loves croissants, and he just wanted to have it for like as a side bread for dinner. So I definitely suggest making 2 batches of these, and they're so easy to make and forgiving of your time. I literally was working with this dough pretty much all day, and it wasn't something that was taking up a lot of my time. Like every 4 hours, I take it out, I roll it out, fold it, roll it out again, and then put it back in the fridge and let it ferment. It's really, really simple. And I feel like a lot of the recipes out there make sourdough croissants very difficult to understand and just too laborsome and cumbersome for the average baker to understand. And once I do put out my recipe, I'm going to make it really, really simple for you guys to understand, even if you're not using a scale. I did not use a scale to produce these results, and neither do you. You know, our ancestors did not use a scale when they were making these amazing pastries. This is kind of more like a new age thing that we have access to now. Not hitting on the scales, but hey, you just really need to learn how to bake without it. So now it's the next day, and I'm just going to go ahead and shape up some of these residual pieces because I forgot to record me rolling out and shaping the whole block of dough. So you're just going to see me shaping these small little pieces, just making sure nothing goes to waste because I do not like wasting anything in the kitchen. So whenever I have pieces of residual dough, I always roll it out and still make more out of it. I definitely do not throw those away. I do remember a point in my life where I used to throw away extra pieces of dough, and I could just slap myself on the wrist for doing that because it's a very, very bad practice. And if you guys do that, definitely try not to do that. Take those residual pieces of dough and make something out of it. Usually I would take those little strips and like roll them in a hot dog and make myself like a little piggy in the blanket, but today I did not do that. So I'm just cutting like a diagonal triangle shape, and I'm just going to go ahead and roll it up. It's not super perfect because, hey, I'm not measuring with a measuring tape, but I still think they came out pretty dang good. So what I'm going to do is take my croissant dough and I'm going to pop it in the refrigerator and let it proof and rise in the fridge in a cold temperature so that the butter does not melt and mess up my beautiful folds. And this is what they're looking like. I feel like they're just not dark enough for my liking, so I'm going to pop them back into the oven for a few more minutes. And remember, the link to the recipe will be linked below in my description box. And the croissants are done, and they look so good and they tasted amazing. So this is the simplest breakfast yet. I bought some A2 organic yogurt from Costco, and I love using yogurt as like a nice little staple for breakfast for my sons. It's something that everybody can agree on. So everybody gets a helping of yogurt, and I top it with agave or honey or even maple syrup depending on who wants what type of sweetener. And I usually top it with raisins and fresh apples and frozen blueberries and just a little tad bit of vanilla extract. This is just what I had in my house, but for the most part, this yogurt will get topped with pretty much whatever it is I have on hand, whether that's cinnamon and apples or dates and a little bit of chocolate. It just really depends on what I have in my pantry and what the boys are asking for, and this is it, serving it up. So today is Saturday, and every Saturday in my home, that means it's special breakfast day. So on special breakfast day, on a Saturday, my husband is home from work, and I always want it to be very special for him. So every Saturday, I always make him a nice batch of pancakes, and today I am at my mom's house, so I'm making him the pancakes at my mother's house. So these pancakes are made with almond flour, sorghum flour, and tapioca starch. This is my special gluten-free blend that I use for almost anything gluten-free, unless I don't have these pantry items in my home. I teach you how to make your very own gluten-free all-purpose flour mix in a freebie down below. You guys just go ahead and click the link in the description box and you'll see where you can click to download my freebie where I teach you how to create your very own gluten-free mix. And you can choose from an array of different flours. You don't have to choose almond flour if you have an almond allergy, or if you prefer not to go with grains, you can omit the sorghum flour and replace it for a different flour. But each one of these flours serve a particular purpose for creating that perfect pancake texture. So go ahead and get that freebie below, and it's available as long as that link is there. So I got my little guy helping me with the pancakes, and he's just helping me crack these eggs into the bowl. And I just started letting him crack eggs. It used to make me so anxiety filled because I didn't want him to quote unquote mess up, but it really doesn't matter. I've decided to change my mind on how I think about messes and things like that. So instead of using cane sugar like how I normally do, I'm adding maple syrup to step away from using so much sugar. And if you are not someone who eats dairy, you can always omit this. You can always omit that milk for plant milk if you want to. Also, if it's going a little bit too fast for you, don't worry. I have the entire recipe linked below in the description box, and you guys can follow along there. It's a super easy recipe, super forgiving. I've been using this recipe for like the last, I want to say 3 years now, when I discovered this mix that I love to use, which is that good old tapioca flour, almond flour, and sorghum flour. It just makes a perfect, tasty pancake batter. So this recipe usually produces about 18 pancakes, and that's enough for my family of 5. And thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.